Okay, I have to tell you about my morning because I can't hold it in.
Wait, what happened in your morning?
Okay, so we record this on Sunday, right? So this all happened before 11 a.m. on a Sunday. So bear that in mind.
Okay.
It was a lot. So there's a local coffee shop near me that I love.
This is Upper West Side?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I go into my local coffee shop this morning to get my usual. And there's a guy at the counter. I didn't realize this because I had my headphones in and I walk in and he's at the counter and he's kind of being aggressive with the women behind the counter.
Really?
And he's threatening them. And
Whoa.
they're like, please just have a seat, right? They're being very good about it. And he's like, fuck you guys, fuck this, you're racist. And they're like, please just sit down. Like, we don't want to cause trouble, please sit down. And then he starts, I don't remember exactly what he was asking, but he starts saying this stuff and he's like, you know, suck my dick. And then he goes, wasn't funny at the time, but in hindsight it's really funny. And he goes, you're a bitch. I'm going to get Britney Spears to eat your pussy. And the lady's like, okay, thank you. And he's like saying all this stuff to them, right?
Wait, he said he's going to get Britney Spears to eat
their pussy. Yeah.
And she didn't say, can we put that in the calendar?
He was getting quite scary. He was getting really aggressive.
Oh, he wasn't being serious.
No.
He doesn't know Britney.
No, he was being really like aggressive and angry. And he was like, fuck you guys. I'm going to get Britney Spears to eat your pussy. And she was like, great, thank you. Sit down.
Great, yeah.
And he's like,
thank you.
Fuck you guys. You know, you're a bitch. Yeah. You're racist. And everyone in the coffee shop's just sitting there. No one's saying anything. And I'm like behind him in line. So I'm like, oh, fuck, this is going to happen now. And they're like, please leave. And he's like, no, fuck you guys. And they go, you have to get out. You're scaring our customers.
Oh, he's not working there.
No,
God,
he's
bad at
just
listening
walked in.
sometimes.
He just walked in.
Okay, gotcha. So he's from the streets.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not 100%.
He's not like
there,
homeless?
Clearly.
Okay.
He might have been. I don't know.
Okay.
And he's like, you know, saying all this stuff and they're getting angry. And there's just women who work there. It's a coffee shop. And the barista's like, you have to go. And he's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to get Britney Spears to eat your pussy. Suck my dick. Like all this stuff. And they're like, you have to go. And then it escalates. They're yelling at each other. And she's like, you're scaring our customers. And he turns to me and he goes, am I scaring you? And I just went, yeah, you are. Can you go now? And he goes, no. And then he's getting really angry and violent, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, to me, he's like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And then he picks up, I'm not making this up, by the way. This is 100% true. Okay. He picks up the hand sanitizer and starts licking it and like squirting his mouth. And then he starts like,
what?
And then he starts making like sexual moves with it. And then he starts humping the coffee counter. And at that point, at that point, I felt a little safer. All right. Because I was like,
you're like, I recognize this.
Yeah, no, literally.
Yeah, this is New York. Okay,
I was like, I was born and raised in the city. I've lived in the city my whole life. So I was like, oh, he's one of those people. Okay. Like I've seen this before, whatever. So then I felt a little safe and I was like, okay, we can handle
Let him
this.
have his fun.
Yeah.
Just not on the eclairs.
Just hump the counter for a bit. And then he starts getting angry and the women are getting angry and he's threatening people. He's calling them racist. He's getting real close to them. And I had this, I don't know if it's because I've been like depressed lately, but I just had this like manic urge. I was like, I'm going to fight him, which is so stupid because I'm so weak.
Wait, you said that?
No, in my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, I can take this guy. And I'm glad I didn't because I'm really weak. But it just escalates. And he's like yelling at these women. He's threatening them and he's yelling at me. And then he starts unbuttoning his pants, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah. And it gets worse. And the lady behind the counter turns to her coworker and goes, get the pepper spray. So she comes out with this tiny little pepper spray. And she goes, you have to leave this coffee shop now. And he's like, fuck you guys. And then
he pulled a Gandalf?
And then some woman comes in with a 10-year-old child.
Oh, shit.
Not realizing what's going on. And he sees this 10-year-old. And he goes, your lucky children are here because I love children. Meanwhile, he's still like undoing his pants. The woman grabs a child, leaves the coffee shop. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what do we do now? He's yelling at me. He's yelling at the ladies behind the counter. They're holding a pepper spray. Apparently, he'd been in there for about 10 minutes at this point. And they're saying, we've called the police. You know, why? Like, the police are coming. And he's still swearing, saying you're racist for kicking me out. Like, you know, making disgusting comments to them. Like, you know, like fucking the counter, whatever he's doing. It's getting quite scary at this point. I'm a little like, all right, it was like fine when you were just humping the counter, but now you're like trying to start fights with people.
How old was this guy? Let's get a little detail on
maybe
it.
Like 40.
So he was 40 years old. He didn't necessarily seem homeless.
He could have been.
He could have been homeless. Yeah. Okay. But he was wearing regular clothing.
Like rundown clothing.
Rundown clothing. Yeah. So maybe some hand-me-downs. Was he warm enough to be outside?
Yeah, he had a coat on.
He had a coat on.
He was being very aggressive, like very angry, yelling at people. It gets worse. Let me say this. So he's yelling at me. He's saying Britney Spears is going to eat her pussy. He's yelling at the coffee shop ladies. They're holding this pink pepper spray.
That's so random.
They're holding this pink pepper spray out to him. Like, you have to go. This keeps going. No one in the coffee shop has said anything but me. And I don't know if I should have said anything.
Everyone's just diligently
Everyone's just eating their
croissants
and like drinking their coffee. And this is all happening at the counter while I'm there. There was even like, I'm not a bit of a feminist. I'm a harsh feminist, but at this point, I'm like, where are the men? Like, why is no one standing up and saying anything? He's harassing these poor women. So then this keeps going on. He's threatening them. He's like, I'm gonna fuck you guys up. Yada da. He's getting real close at the counter. They're holding pepper spray. Finally, he says, give me $1 and I'll leave. So they throw $1 at him and he grabs it and he starts to turn to leave. And
wow, that's what he wanted.
Yeah, and
he wanted to warm up and he wanted money.
And then there's a young couple with a baby there. And he goes right up to the baby and he's like, see, I love children. And then finally,
the dad
jumped up. The dad jumped up and went, first of all, the women go, get away from the children. And the dad jumped up and says, get away from my baby, right? And then he's like, okay. And so he walks out. The women will calm down. It was the men like sitting there.
Be honest. If the dad and this crazy person were to get into a fight, could the dad win?
I don't know.
Isn't that scary?
He'd been real.
As a father, isn't that a scary thought?
He'd been real quiet until he went near the baby.
Can you imagine being in that position and you can't take this person?
I had a moment where I thought, I'm gonna kick this guy. I'm gonna do it because he's coming near me.
I would have seen.
And I was like, I'm gonna slap him. And I'm glad I didn't because I'm really weak. Like I do Pilates, but I can't throw a punch. So I'm so glad I didn't because he would have taken my head and put it straight into the croissant counter.
Wait, you do Pilates?
Yeah.
You're a certified badass.
And I'm way too pretty to get my face smashed in. I'll just say that now. So he was doing all this stuff and then he finally walks out and everyone like calms down and the lady turns to him and she goes, it was an almond milk cappuccino, right? And I'm like, dude, you're still gonna make my coffee after all this? I thought like you should go home and have a nap. But I was like, yeah, it was. And so they make it and I give him a really big tip and she's apologizing to me about this and I'm apologizing to her, even though none of us did anything wrong.
You should have just snapped at the barista.
But like, why didn't you fight him?
Like, almond?
Yeah.
Almond? I said half and half.
So anyway, so this happens, just right? Kidding. He's out front still. The police finally arrive. Apparently what happened is they'd phoned the police. No one had shown up. Someone in this coffee shop had walked to the local precinct around the corner. Police still hadn't shown up. So the police arrive. The police are talking to him. He's saying that we were all being racist and that he hadn't done anything wrong.
What, is he white?
No.
Okay.
But the lady behind the counter wasn't white either. So he was just, he said we were racist, even though he like,
there's a lot of that going around.
Assaulting the hand sanitizer and threatening everyone in the shop. The police then come in and say, hey, like, who called the police? We need to talk to someone. And everyone in the coffee shop start yelling at the police officer.
Why?
They start going, where the fuck were you? We called you 15 minutes ago. This guy was threatening people. This could have been a situation. You guys didn't show up. We had to walk to the precinct.
Oh, damn.
You guys weren't here.
They're not wrong, though.
And the police officer was like, had an issue at 60th Street. We couldn't get here at time. And they were like, why didn't you send anyone over? There's a whole precinct. They were threatening the children in here. Some woman had to take a child out. Meanwhile, I'm there with my cappuccino like, yeah, no, they have a point. Like, anyway, I left and all I could think about was just like, this all happened before 11 a.m. on a Sunday.
That's
and
a lot.
My adrenaline it was a lot. It was a lot. I thought I was going to get in a fight with a guy while he was licking a hand sanitizer and drinking the hand sanitizer. It was so fucking weird.
That is weird.
The poor ladies behind the counter were really shook. They were upset, right?
Yeah,
They're trying to keep the shop safe. They're trying to keep themselves safe. And this guy comes in there and was threatening them. This guy was going up to children. It was a lot.
That's a long response time, though. 15 minutes.
It was a real, like he was lunging at people.
Is that the average response time? Can we look up what the average response time is for police?
It's not, because when someone blew up the car on my street, they were there in 2 seconds.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
But maybe there was an issue on 60th Street. I don't know. But the point was everyone starts yelling at the police officers. All the people who were real quiet when this guy was yelling at me started yelling at the police officers about how they were slow.
Right, but you're not supposed to be in queue. Like your emergency shouldn't be in like waiting, right? Exactly. You shouldn't have like a chat bot on 911 saying like, you are 7th in line, please.
This was literally like a minute walk from the police station too as well.
Yeah,
so I'm sure they had someone there they could have sent over.
That's crazy.
Anyway, the people in the shop start getting mad. They were like, 3 of us called you guys. No one came. They were threatening women in here. They were threatening children in here. The guy was outside. I don't know how it ended, but it was a lot.
They should just defund him.
The police or
all of them? We shouldn't have any police.
Maybe that's why they didn't show up, because they were defunded. They were like, you know what? We're not getting paid for this. So like, but
right.
It was
we were in
wild.
an advanced check line.
And also, no one said anything when this was all happening.
Yeah.
It was right in the coffee counter, and no one said anything. And I didn't know if I was right for saying anything. Maybe I should have kept quiet. Like on the subway, when someone hassles you, you just kind of look down and don't say anything. But maybe they should have risen up in rebellion and fought back against this guy. I don't know what the right move is. It was a lot. It was a lot. I felt bad for the women because they were like by themselves in the situation.
Feel bad for them in that situation, but
I mean, they brought out the pepper spray. I thought I moved back because it's like I don't want to get hit with the pepper spray. This is a lot happening.
As you